everyone. Today we are going to talk about a problem I think we all face: how to actually remember what you read. We're going to transform your reading from just a passive habit into a real active skill with some killer actionable tips. Let's dive in.
All right, let's start with a little challenge right now. Can you name the last 3 books you actually finished? And, more importantly, can you name one solid idea from each of those books that you still use in your life today? Go on, take a second. It's kind of tough, isn't it? And hey, if you drew a blank, you are so not alone. So many of us read books, we close them, and then poof, the information just evaporates. But you know what? It really doesn't have to be that way. The problem isn't your memory, it's your method. Okay, so first up, part 1, the active reader mindset. Because this whole thing, it all starts with how you think about your books. This right here is the absolute core idea. We're often taught to treat books like they're these precious, sacred objects. But to really learn from them, you've got to see them as sparring partners. Something to grapple with, to challenge, to even rough up a little. So how do you spar with a book? You get physical. Go on, crack that spine. Write your thoughts, your arguments, your questions right there in the margins. Underline passages that just blow your mind. Dog-ear the pages you want to come back to. Trust me, a battered book is a sign of a well-used mind. It's proof you've really engaged with the ideas inside. All right, the next part of this mindset shift is huge. Giving yourself permission to quit. So many of us get caught in this trap, the sunk cost fallacy, right? We think, I'm 50 pages in, I have to finish it, even if we're hating every second. The smart way? Recognize that your time is your most valuable asset. If a book isn't giving you what you need, it's time to move on. And if you need a little rule to help you, here's a brilliant little formula. Just take the number 100 and subtract your age. That's how many pages you should give a book before you can quit, completely guilt-free. So if you're 30, give it 70 pages. If you're 60, give it 40. The older you get, the less time you have to waste on books that just aren't a good fit. Okay, now that we have the right mindset, let's build part 2, your engagement engine. These are the actual techniques that'll turn your passive reading into active learning. This technique is so simple, but wow, is it powerful. After every single chapter, just stop and write a 2 or 3 sentence summary of what you just read. This literally forces your brain to process the information, not just scan it. Then when you finish the whole book, it's time for the final crucial step. And this right here is that final step. You just answered these 3 questions. Number 1, what's the big idea? This makes you boil it all down to the core message. 2, how does the author know? This makes you think critically about the evidence. And 3, and this is the most important one, what should I do now? This is how you turn reading into real-world action. So, what do you do with all these amazing notes and summaries? You start building what you can think of as a supplemental brain. This is just a single central place. It could be a Word doc, a note-taking app, whatever, where all your insights live. Over time, this becomes your own personal searchable database of wisdom. It's amazing. And here's where it gets really, really powerful, especially today. You can feed all of that text, all your highlights, your summaries, into an AI partner like ChatGPT or Claude. And then when you're working on something, you can literally ask it to search your own thoughts for relevant quotes or ideas. It's like having a perfect memory. Now for part 3, your long-term strategy. We've got the mindset, we've got the tactics. Now let's talk about building a truly rich and sustainable reading life. A college professor once said this to a class that groaned about having to read Huckleberry Finn again. What he meant was that rereading a book is this incredible act of discovery, because while the book stays the same, you don't. I mean, think about it. Reading a book when you're 18 is a totally different experience than reading that same book at 38. You've lived more, you've learned more, you've changed. Rereading great books doesn't just show you new things about the book, it shows you how much you've grown. The next strategy is to become a T-shaped reader. Just picture the letter T. That vertical bar, that represents reading deep in your main field of interest or your job. But that horizontal bar, that represents reading wide, exploring history, biology, fiction, poetry, totally different fields. Why is this T-shape so important? Well, because an imbalance can be risky. If you only read deep, you can get kind of isolated in your own little bubble. But if you only read wide, you risk becoming a dilettante. Knowing a little about everything, but not much about anything. The magic, the truly new ideas, happen at that intersection of depth and breadth. And that brings us to our final, and honestly, our most important section, the final philosophy. Because beyond all the techniques and tactics, this is the one core idea you've got to remember.
Please, please remember this. Reading should be a pleasure, not a source of pressure. You will never, ever be able to read everything, and that's okay. Speed reading is pretty much a myth, so don't worry about how fast you're going. Read at your own pace, and celebrate the books you have read instead of stressing about the ones you haven't. Ultimately, the goal here isn't to optimize every second or conquer some giant mountain of books. The goal is just to remember that reading is one of life's greatest privileges. So yeah, do it with intention, do it with focus, but above all else, do it with joy. So I'll leave you with this final thought to ponder. Thinking about that rereading tip, what's one important book that the you of the past has already read that you think you should give to the you of today? The answer to that question might tell you a lot more than you think. Thanks for tuning in.